Hello everybody and welcome back to Mechabellum. I wanted to show you one of the more interesting games that I've had on the ladder recently. Been on a little bit of a winning streak, slowly grinding up that MMR. I've chosen the Rhino Specialist versus with Marksman Mustang. I think my opponent picks up the heavy armor, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, or maybe he's an elite specialist. Yeah, no, he's heavy armor. I really like this setup as opening units just because you have the ability to shoot up and shoot the ground. You have semi-decent wave clear, but Mustangs are just very good units. Marksmen have seen a bit of a nerf. My opponent has Steel Balls and Fang. The weakness of spawning with the units that I did is that I really don't have any armor to speak of. Something like tanks, Steel Balls, of course any of the giant units have a lot of HP, so that's something that I'll need to consider as we move forward. My opponent wisely picked up some arc lights here, realizing that I don't have the funds this early in the game to get a tanky unit. I will be getting my Rhino on round 3, so at least I know I'm guaranteed one pseudo tanky unit. Rhinos do have a ton of HP, but melee units suffer as the game continues to go on. They're initially fairly good because units don't have a lot of upgrades, so you're able to very quickly just get in there and deal the damage that you need to deal. However, as the game progresses, you tend to suffer a little bit as units get more and more experience. They're able to take down your melee units a little bit easier. It's a little bit harder for your melee units to kind of keep up with ranged units because ranged units can be earning XP from all over the board, especially if they're multiple entity. Like these Fang that just split up, he'll be earning XP over on the left side and right side of the field, so something to consider. My Mustang will make short work of those Fang if they can get to them, so I was kind of annoyed that I wasn't able to quite get in there with those guys on time, but this flank should do a little bit better just because it did have that double sniper support. I was keeping an eye out on that. Those Steel Balls obviously were able to make the difference. I was honestly expecting my opponent to perhaps go with something that maybe not arc lights, but I was expecting him to maybe go with some Fang or some more crawlers. There's nothing wrong with having a lot of chaff in the early game, just because you'll be using chaff units basically forever. I didn't see anything here that I wanted. The deployment module is great because it's free. Nano Repair Kit, of course, is really good, especially if I was going to put it on my Rhino. But I was like, you know what? I just want the cash early. The Steel Balls kind of put a pin in that Nano Repair Kit just because I didn't really think that they'd probably be able to kill it. The Rhino, especially level 2 Rhino, can normally deal with one unit of Steel Balls without much of an issue. However, if it gets bogged down by something like crawlers, then the Steel Balls do have enough range to fire at the Rhino while the crawlers are attacking it, so they can build up that damage, and that will out-heal the health that you'd get from the Nano Repair Kit. So wasn't too interested in it. If my opponent was set up differently, let's say that these were Mustang instead, I would definitely have gone with the Nano Repair Kit and just saved it. Maybe even placed it on a unit that I was willing to recycle, just so that way they would have a bit of health. But instead I went with some tanks here just because I needed to get through his wave clear a little bit more. I wasn't really too worried about the Steel Balls. I cleared them off fairly quickly last round, and I do have a lot of crap to just kind of get in the way of my tanks. That way I can get in there and kill them. So as you can see, it's working out fairly well here. One round of tank volleys isn't enough to kill a Steel Ball, but it does deal a significant amount of damage to him. So the left side worked again considerably better. That's where I have my dual snipers. That's really the only difference between the two sides. So it just goes to show, although marksmen, I wouldn't rate them as highly, especially 4 months ago when like the beta first started. They're still pretty decent units. Hoping I take out that arc light pretty quickly here. Move on forward. Unfortunately, my snipers get distracted killing the units that they're not good at killing, but these things happen. You know, it's just kind of one of those things. If they'd shot the arc light, I would have been totally fine. What are you going to do about it? Whoa. Again, I don't think there was anything worthwhile here. Didn't really want any of that crap. Getting some more tanks, I think, is very useful here just because I will have a little bit more wave clear. My opponent instead goes for an Overlord. Fairly interesting choice here. I wasn't thinking he'd go with an Overlord, and he even grabbed the mass-produced Overlord just to make it a little bit cheaper. I just happened to grab an extra Mustang, just because having a little bit of that pitter-patter damage is always good. Mustangs are great units, so just having them to help clear away a little bit more chaff is useful. I'm very glad that I did get it, and my opponent made the correct decision of putting it over here. I put my Rhino in this corner just because I knew it would draw away the steel balls. It should be more than tough enough to deal with these. But as you can see, without a lot of support, it's in a rough spot. It will kill them all. Move forward, kill this, and then grab that tower, I believe. Mustang did a great job, really helping me clear away a lot of this damage. Down goes the Mothership. So the problem that I have with playing a giant so early in the game is that now I know it's there, and I know now that he has this specialist as well. So what works really well against Motherships, you know, anything that shoots up, really, including these snipers and Mustang. So I grab a unit of crawlers here just to protect my Rhino. I figured most likely he'd put a missile here. It's worth actually doing that, because if it can kill these things and then move forward again, I'm in a great position. I give my Mustang the anti-air. So why this is important is that the anti-air upgrade gives them extra range, which means that they tend to shoot down these overlords before they shoot enemies on the ground. So the way that most units aggro is based off of who's closest. So because the... Ooh, I think these don't spawn in time. Unfortunate. But it is what it is. Actually having them here is still pretty good because they're distracting all of these steel balls for a minute. So yeah, all of my Mustang immediately aggroed onto the Overlord because it's very close. So being able to just shoot this down very quickly is a fantastic thing. Also, ranking up those snipers, that way they can deal significantly more damage to these steel balls. Normally, I think they one-shot them at level 2, but because this guy's got the cost control specialist, or sorry, excuse me, the heavy armor specialist, I'm just not going to be able to get through that super easily. So, I think this goes my way, yeah. The Rhino, I'm thinking about abandoning at this point. I'm totally okay with recycling a unit if it's not working out. I think the Giant Hunter is worth it here. I know I'm building a bit of a reputation for myself for not loving the Giant Hunter. But yeah, I just get rid of the Overlord. He's not really too useful here. Opponent did the old upgrade and then recycle. Not a bad move. I grab a couple more snipers just because I figure it's worth having for that single point damage. I'm debating about upgrading them at this point, and I do actually grab the Elite Marksman just because my guys are all level 2 already. I think that's more worth it because it is a significant increase in damage and a moderate increase in range. It's 16 extra range as opposed to the 40. I don't really need that much extra range because these guys are right on the front line. My opponent's done a really intelligent thing by grabbing this Overlord artillery. Very useful for taking down single entity units and medium units like these sledgehammers. Not great against things like crawlers, but it is just extra damage. Does it have any splash? I think it doesn't list it as having splash damage, but I'm almost certain that it does have a little bit of splash damage. Could be wrong. Missile there just to take out my crawlers, totally worth it, and a good distraction. One of the things that you can do is, I've noticed that his units are starting to bunch up in this area. Man, these Mustang work through these Overlords pretty darn quick when they're level 2. But one of the things I've noticed is that his units are bunching up there. I could play a unit that has a little bit of holding power that is fairly cheap, like a unit of Fang. Fang normally don't have the greatest holding power in the world, but because there's so many of them in the unit, they'd actually work quite well against something like an Overlord. So it's not a bad idea for me to do something like that to kind of corral his units into a killing zone. And it also would help me focus my firepower because his splash damage isn't high. His steel balls, I believe, are now replicating, and that really hurt me. Having that steel ball replication was terrible. We both grabbed the range specialist, not really a big deal there. He ends up eating a unit, and I think he plays it out on this Overlord, if I remember correctly. I remember that Overlord getting a little crazy. No spoilers. I end up grabbing the Mechanical Rage on my tanks, just because I figure if they can blow through these Fang a little bit quicker, I'm probably in a better bet. I'm also eyeing up this flank. There isn't really a lot to protect there, so I'm like, this could work. I grab a Vulcan just because I want to be able to kill these steel balls once they replicate. What often happens is that the steel balls die due to something like a sniper shot while the Vulcan was also shooting at it. And because of that, the Vulcan will then burn off all of the crawlers that come out of them. End up eating my little crawler boys here. There's no real purpose to have them, and grab extra armor. This is just slowly helping me keep on pace with my opponent. I wouldn't really highly rate these two technologies, but as the game continues on and you have more and more units, that's when it really becomes more useful. Good little Fang there, absorbing a missile for me again. I think these guys still one-shot the Fang. Yeah, they do. So very useful. Of course, I'm earning a little bit extra income compared to my opponent because of the Giant Hunter, but having all of this photon stuff is really going to hurt me. I see one go down. There's number 2. I think I'll get number 3 here. So it's an extra 150 bucks. I mean, I've slowly built up a bit of money from this, but it's really hurting my snipers not being able to... Oh, actually, I guess I get almost all of the Overlords in this case. Maybe this guy will live, maybe not. So it's really helped boosting my economy having it, especially because these Overlords are pseudo-weak in comparison to where they should be thanks to the mass-produced Overlord. My guys are able to tear through them just that little bit quicker. No, little useful there. There's one little crawler. I'll slow this down so I can talk about the selection. Good hits, but unfortunately I'm doing minor cuts to an opponent that has a lot of giants, and that's something that is a little scary for me, just because I need to deal a decisive blow, because if he wins by a landslide, I am almost certainly dead. We both pick up the super heavy armor. I do it here just because I figure this Vulcan can become a little bit of a buffer, allowing me to just take a lot more damage. I also realize I need a bit more anti-air and a bit more wave clear here, so deploying a few extra units of Mustang just in case he did something like grab wasps, because I don't have enough pew-pews to deal with all those wasps. So just having a few extra things. In fact, I even deploy a unit of Mustangs right on the front just because they'll actually work quite well at clearing away these Fang and then immediately getting on top of the Overlords. Great play by my opponent, grabbing the shields on Wasps as well. He's spawning a lot of Wasps at this point. So not a bad plan. I'm thinking about deploying some Fang right across the top, but I have these Vulcan. I might as well play out the best partner just because that's free snipers, and if I continue to upgrade my snipers, they'll become better and better. My expensive unit ended up eating a missile there. I didn't love that, but hey, at least it happened, you know, whatever. A lot more Mustangs are helping a considerable amount. Also, just having a few extra snipers from the Vulcans. I'm not feeling super confident here, though, because a lot of my anti-air is crumbling, and these guys are just producing a lot of Wasps. But it works out in my favor this time, once again, and I am just rolling in the dough at this point. My opponent really has to think about how to get rid of these very aggressive Mustang. Amp Core for my opponent, Speed Specialist for me. The reason I picked the Speed is I want to be able to get these Mustang online immediately. Here are my Fang buffers with shields. I need those just to protect my Mustang for a little while longer. I really love having a front line of Fang with shields. They're only there to die, and the loss of XP is minimal. Fang really don't give a lot of XP to the opponent when they die, so I'm not concerned by that whatsoever. And eventually these guys can be a little dangerous if you just keep them on the field, keep upgrading them, and they make great little roadblocks as well. So let's say the opponent wants to play like a level 2 or a level 3 Rhino due to a card on the back line. Just having a unit of Fang there to kind of slow it down, that way your upgraded units can eventually deal some damage to it, is great. They also do really good things like blocking missile shots for me. Now, something else that I could have been doing, I did place some Mustang here just to draw away some of this crap. Also, they'll do a decent job at pulling units away That way I can just start pinging away at his mama ships early. I'm not sure if that was a great choice, because now I'm kind of outflanked, but I am killing off these overlords very quickly, so kind of worked out. I don't know if that was worthwhile, but I wanted to pull some of this chaff out of here. That way my guys could come online and kill those overlords as fast as possible. So, okay with sacrificing it. Probably should have used a unit of Fang instead of a unit of Mustang. But I figured, hey, what if they don't die and they come in here and do some damage? So I'm not a huge fan of overlords in general, just because they are very low health for giants. Their upgrades are good, don't get me wrong, but they seem to be very situational. And because Mustangs are in such a good spot in the meta right now, they deal with chaff units fairly well, and they deal with flyers really well. They deal with single entity units, even things like arc lights. If the arc lights are unupgraded, your Mustangs can take them out without much of an issue. They do well against snipers. They do well against Phoenix. You know, they're just really, really good units. And because of that, overlords kind of suffer. So maybe if we saw Mustang kind of tuned down a little bit, maybe a little bit less attack per shot, that would work out quite well. But as it is now, wouldn't recommend going this full Overlord build. I mean, look at this. These things are kitted out. They have tons of upgrades, lots of little abilities and things on them, but just not able to make it happen. If I was playing this, I would honestly have gone with a very heavy front line to try and defend my Overlords. I wouldn't really have worried about getting a lot of arc lights or things like that. I would probably have just really built into steel balls. That way I could have something that's just providing wave after wave of units. So the steel ball goes in, it dies, it causes some crawlers, it dies. That's fine, because now my overlords are buying a bit more time to spawn out more crap and deal the damage that needs to be done. The longer the game goes on, obviously, the better the overlords are at, and that's why I kind of drew these units away as quickly as possible, because at this point he's spawning like 2 units of wasps every 30 seconds. So I just knew that I couldn't deal with that if it was a 5-minute round. So there you go. Or I don't know. The rounds never last 5 minutes, but you know what I meant. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please send me some viewer games if you'd like me to cast them. I promise I will do it. I just got wrapped up in the last one. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all shortly. Bye-bye.